Josh, if engineering were the Metropolitan Opera, you would be the prima ballerina.
Yes, I would. Welcome to Engineer vs. Designer.
Podcast!
For product design, shop talk, and an all-purpose 3D digital design geek fest. My name is Josh, slightly peaked and somewhat pukey mechanical engineer of SolidSmack.com.
My name is Adam, perfectly healthy industrial designer of CAD Junkie.com.
Each week's show is broken into three halves. First, we'll bring you the top stories from this week's 3D CAD news brought to you by SolidSmack.com.
Followed by tips, tricks, and Q&A, compliments of CADJunkie.com.
This week we have internet sensation Mark Burhop of Siemens PLM and Solid Edge fame on the line.
Mark, I hear you can tear a 3D CAD package in two with your mythically mysterious mind powers.
Ooh.
What's your secret?
Adam, it's really easy. Coffee.
Okay, Mark, we're going to be hearing more from you as the show goes on. Josh Mings of SolidSmack.com, cue the robot kitty sounds. I hear you've had to scoop low and hard for some nuggets of news this week, am I right?
You are so right. This week's SolidSmack update is brought to you by Structural Mechanics Corporation. From engineering design and analysis to training and CAE software, these guys love a good challenge.
Love them a good topological optimization challenge.
Send those tough questions to the good folks at structuralmechanics.com. I hate to say it, but Autodesk has some news this week.
This week's Autodesk update is brought to you by Josh, who will soon see his co-host walk out because he insists on covering every press release on the Autodesk blog.
Yes. All I can say is AutoCAD Mac.
AutoCAD on the Mac, okay.
Moving on, in breaking news, SpaceClaim is releasing their next version, SpaceClaim 2011 Plus.
I hear the new version brings in a slew of sheet metal tools, including hinge, jog, and double wall features. Makes it easy to repeat features with a new pattern tool, and has some really slick ways of finding volume and removing internal details with an updated volume extract tool.
Yes, you'll be able to find out more when the news hits the web waves Tuesday morning.
T-Splines has released a handy 5-step guide to learn T-Splines for Rhino. You get access to 51 sample models and an assortment of sample videos. Each step takes you through the process via tutorials and concludes with a giant Buy T-Splines for Rhino button at the end.
Well played, T-Splines. CADJunkie.com dumped a boatload of new content on the site today. Good job, Adam.
Thanks, man.
15 weeks of Moto Bliss, a comprehensive Moto beginner course for industrial design, along with new pricing and tons of site improvements. It's kind of a big deal. Definitely worth a look.
Oh, thanks, Josh.
Yeah, just listen to him trying to be funny in that ridiculous promo video, and you'll be hooked.
Wacom is at it again by stretching their Cintiq tablet to an amazing 24-inch HD version.
Ooh.
3 more wonderful inches than the current model. Wink. And it just received an FCC approval. So no idea when it will actually be launched, or if it will be wireless, or if it will have any touch capability as of yet. Looking forward to finding out.
And finally, if you want to see a robot that is inspired by what it hears, then paints it, you must check out bengrosser.com and see the CNC-style machine get creative with a paintbrush.
Okay, guys, so AutoCAD on the Mac, I said who cares, we all say who cares, but is this actually substantive?
Well, what I think is really the most interesting about this, AutoCAD on the Mac, first of all, this is one of their main products that's being offered through the Apple App Store now. So Apple's getting a cut, and they're becoming a pretty good case study of how larger software companies can port their software over to an app store sort of model.
So I think there's things you can do. Obviously Mac's getting more and more popular, and I got a Mac at home too, and it's a nice piece of technology. So
yeah, the demand's going to be there.
Who knows what's going to happen?
I think whoever comes out with the products on the like the iPad, the mobile apps, the sort of simplified approaches to 3D modeling, I think that's going to be a major impact on what products make it in that market later on the Mac version and just in general.
Yeah, especially a lot of the new things, because you really have to think about it again. It was such a Windows-only world for a long time, and now Mac has really come back with a vengeance, and the same time, you get all these new platforms coming out.
You know, iPad is, for everything that it's not, it is an excellent presentation platform in my mind.
I mean, if you go to I was at a CAD conference, a couple months ago, and guys walk up with iPads and they're all ready to demo things. It's a lot better that way than, pulling out your laptop, booting it up, finding the software and running it that way. If you could just pull out a laptop while you're standing there, or pull out an iPad while you're standing there, it's a great way to show something off.
Okay, Mark, totally different topic, not news related, but finite element analysis. You're really big into it. You want to talk about it. We want to hear what you have to say.
I mean, just think about it. You can actually take a product you're designing, a virtual product, and you can test it, and you can find out how much it's going to bend, and where it's going to break, and do all these really cool things with it without ever having built anything.
So that is incredibly cool, right? And I can totally understand why that is amazing from an engineering standpoint. But for me as a normal person,
so
when is somebody going to make a product where I build a piece of furniture in CAD and I can find out if it's going to hold my weight or not? Easily?
That's the real good question there, because that's my favorite question too. Especially if you look at the new things, and I don't mean to push my own product, because there's other ones that are fairly new too. But solid edge simulation, it's really made for
hey, push
a
it, brother.
designer. Yeah. So we looked a lot at usability. So kind of your chair example, it's actually a good example, but also shows you where there's some limitations. If you try to model wood, well, wood's a very difficult material to model because
very heterogeneous material.
It's the properties change depending on the direction. It depends on the type of wood. There's just a ton of things. Now, if it was a steel chair or aluminum chair, you could probably get some pretty accurate results there. You could certainly you wouldn't have to be an engineer to maybe put some loads on the chair and be able to tell where it's going to break, or if it's even going to come close to what you want.
I have to admit, that is really attractive to me as an industrial designer. Hope Solid Edge has that in the future. Look, folks, we are out of time. Time to refill the oxygen tanks in the studio. We're going to be right back.
Adam Ahern of CADJunkie.com. What are you doing?
What?
Hey.
I was hungry.
Okay, I hear you have some sugar-fried brain candy for the already over-caffeinated children. What have you got this week?
This week's CAD Junkie Q&A is brought to you by Structural Mechanics Corporation, the topological optimization and composites design experts. These guys are going to make your CAE analysis life so much easier. SMC will be there to train you, hold your hand each step of the way to get you up and running quickly and deploy those tools effectively, and then support you thereafter. Check them out at structuralmechanics.com. So we all know that direct modeling is the new buzzword in the CAD industry, and today we have Mark Burhop of Siemens PLM on the line. So I thought today would be a good time to talk about the differences between pure direct modeling and something like SpaceClaim and synchronous technology. What do you think?
Yeah, so we're talking about direct modeling. So that's a tough one, because there's a lot of different definitions, and everybody kind of uses a little bit different of a definition. And one thing that kind of frustrates me sometimes is we'll say, "Oh, this is direct modeling. This is parametric CAD."
Well, it's confusing too, because parametric doesn't necessarily mean historical or vice versa.
Right. So I try to stick with like history-based CAD, but not everybody. But everybody does that.
It comes down to history-based or history-free, and the parametric crosses both.
Okay,
right?
So I mean, down to actual usage. I mean, why don't we just ask you directly? Why does synchronous make my life easier as opposed to just using something like, say, SpaceClaim?
Oh, well, they're very similar things, SpaceClaim and what synchronous technology does. So I think the difference would be if you're a CAD designer, and you want several tools in your toolbox. So I don't know what I think you said you use SolidWorks, so you might have SolidWorks and SpaceClaim. With Solid Edge is perfectly happy to do history-based design, so you can do that. That kind of matches up with SolidWorks, and the synchronous kind of matches up with the more the direct modeling type tools.
So you would say that ST combines the approaches of each and recognizes when they change.
It gives you a toolbox with more options. I think that compared to some of the other, I mean, you look at SpaceClaim. I think SpaceClaim is a great tool, and I hope Brad's listening. and so, but he'll tell you too. It doesn't do history-based modeling. That's really something that they leave to other people,
right.
And they really go after a different domain than what we do as well. which I think you also say.
Right. Well, so one of the things I've always wondered about CAD systems is the idea of a sketcher is it's a really intuitive thing, and I've always wondered why that doesn't translate into 3D. Why don't people make a tool where you literally have something just like a 2D sketcher, except the solver is fully 3D, so you're putting those constraints directly on 3D. Well, I'm going to use the word features, but use it to mean the physical features of the object. And it sounds like that's what Synchronous sort of does.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually kind of a good way to think of it, too. So you're essentially taking what used to be done in 2D and bringing it up to 3D. And even, so there's a lot of cases with Synchronous where in a history-based tool you might do a 2D sketch, whereas in Synchronous you wouldn't do the 3D sketch, you just automatically, or do the 2D sketch, you just automatically start with 3D.
Yeah, you're putting the dimensions directly on the 3D geometry.
Right. So I'm not saying that's we still have sketches too if you're working purely in Synchronous, but I suspect you probably use them a lot less than you would in something that only does history-based modeling.
Okay, Mark, I'm going to push you outside your comfort zone here. I gotta ask, what is in the future for us? Tell us, buddy. What have we got coming down the line from Siemens PLM?
They will.
There you go.
I will be killed if I talk about features. Without saying what we're specifically doing, though, you can look at what's out there and you can extrapolate what's going to happen. Right now, if you look at Synchronous, or if you look at direct modeling, skip what Solid Edge does. Just look at the domain right now. You see direct modeling is getting more and more popular, and there's more and more problems that you can solve with it that are faster without getting into the some of the problems you have with history. It doesn't solve all the problems. No, it doesn't. But you see each release, everybody's doing more. So that there's a lot of competition right now on doing CAD modelers that kind of get around some of those traditional design problems that we've had in the past. In terms of what you can do with say direct modeling, I think we're maybe not even halfway there. There's just a lot of
I would actually hope for a better transition when you're moving back and forth between the history-free and the history-based features.
See, that's what's weird to me. I have to be honest with you, Mark, I haven't used the Solid Edge implementation of ST. I've actually only used the NX one. And in NX, it's just a bunch of features that you can use. So they don't look any different from the other tools. You just kind of use them.
Right.
And so it's kind of transparent to an NX user.
Yeah.
Is it not like that?
No,
in Solid Edge?
it's different. So you can think of Synchronous technology is kind of a core technology that, like Parasolid, right? So everybody, a lot of CAD companies use Parasolid, but they're, how they use it, what they do, and how they implement their UI are completely different. So Synchronous technology is the same thing. So it's a core functionality. In this case, it's only used within Siemens. But NX can build their tools the way they want to. We can build our tools the way we want to, and you can actually do some very interesting things on both sides.
Dinner's ready.
You better believe it is. And we got a lot more to talk with Mark Burhop about in the third half of the show. Be right back.
People, Mark Burhop in the studio.
He's louder than he looks.
He likes roast beef, too.
So, Mark, engineering, virtual worlds, programming, simulation for 3D models. What is going on here? We need some background info on you and fast.
Wow. So there's always a guy at work. You probably got one wherever you work. And he's the guy that never wants to upgrade anything, probably has a cell phone that's 10 years old and probably still using Windows XP.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite of that guy. Yeah. No, for me, I'm kind of the opposite of that. I really like the new technology. I really like change. It's fun and exciting. I think the one good thing though with me now compared to me, a few years ago, is that I think now I realize that guy that's maybe afraid of change, he's got a lot of good reasons to be afraid of change too. So
Wow, that's such an interesting
thought.
I
try to temper my enthusiasm a little bit on some of these things. So I'm always out there. I'm still watching. I love to watch what's going on in CAD. I love to talk about what's a big topic. CAD in the cloud. I love to talk about that. That's a great topic. But I try to temper it a little bit too with I've seen a lot of things that never panned out completely.
All right, so you've been with Siemens on the Solid Edge side for, how long have you been with them actually?
How long? I think about 12 years.
12 years, okay. So certainly social media has changed some things along the way. So how so for you?
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. I actually, a few years ago, my son came home and wanted to show me this thing called Facebook. And I thought that was pretty cool. So
Dangerous.
Yeah, so I couldn't get access to it because I didn't have a university ID. So I called up my university and got an email address from them. And so I was there with basically a lot of kids at that time. Yeah.
Wow.
So I've always liked social media, and so I think what changed though is maybe a couple of years ago, or maybe a little bit 3 or 4 years ago, companies started keeping an eye on it and saying, hey, this is getting to be important. And at the same time, I was dealing a lot more with customers. So, if you're doing product planning, you're trying to figure out what the next thing is that we need for our CAD software. You go out and you talk to customers, you maybe make trips to them to talk to them, you exchange emails or phone calls. And all of a sudden, you got this social media thing coming on, and it's a great, I'm already using it to communicate with other people, and it's just a great way to connect with customers as well.
Well, early on, social media was a really neat, kind of fun novelty thing. And then it became very clear that it was a serious business. And by now, I think it's obvious that social media has literally changed the world in very big ways. So what does that mean specifically for design and design collaboration then? I mean, does this have an impact?
So I think it definitely has an impact, but I think everybody's watching to figure out exactly what that means. Certainly there's a lot of new ways to right now what we're doing, we're talking, we're essentially collaborating on a webcast, and we could do, there's a lot of other places too where that collaboration can get very powerful. So you got to see that there's some places where that is going to impact design as well.
So tell me this: should big corporations have their own internal social network?
So I think social media is. I don't think it's for everybody. So I think you have to have the right personality for it. But I think there are people scattered within all these big companies that do and will use it very effectively and will really help their companies out by doing that.
I've seen it become a very good motivational tool on the management side. When you have it's almost like a group of people in the room, but you have a manager in there, just a supervisor or somebody. There's this level of respect and camaraderie and fun too that sort of develops.
So which ones do you think are the most relevant right now, particularly for our industry?
I'd have to say, for networking reasons, Twitter, hands down.
Have to admit, Josh, I always thought Twitter was completely ridiculous, and then I suddenly was kind of pushed into it this last year by accident, and oh my God, dude, it's like a networking monster machine.
Yeah, but personally, I like Twitter too. Now, I am getting into Google Plus. I am liking that so far, and the fact that I haven't got bored with it in a week or so is probably means it might stick around for a while.
All right, so obviously Al Dean thinks you're a Muppet.
This guy's a Muppet.
Why do you like Google Plus?
I don't know. I've been trying to figure that out myself because I'm not a big fan of Facebook, except maybe to talk to my niece or some family members. And it's a lot like Facebook too. So I like the new things. They have the huddles, and I like the circles, so you can control a little bit about where things go. So if I want to post something about CAD, I'm not sending it out to my family members that are following me.
Okay, so Mark, we hear your son's an industrial designer. Okay, so what's it like building a birdhouse in the backyard as an engineer with a designer?
Oh my gosh! Okay,
are you ever ashamed?
Yeah. But mine's still hanging.
Oh my gosh! Shoot me now.
Engineers tend to think they have a lot of good ideas on how to design things, and it's really funny when an engineer actually meets a real serious industrial designer, because the two that I know, they just have ideas flowing at them just so fast.
I like watching a good industrial designer work too. But you get to see that kind of developing from the ground up, and I just remember, my dad is an engineer as well. So, Mark, having you on the show has been better than Texas State Fair fried butter on a stick, and that's saying something.
Adam, that
what do you say
is the
to
nicest thing anyone said to me.
Oh,
wow.
And to those who have endured 6 sleepless nights in anticipation of today's episode, thank you so much. Your eye holes look like the black olives on my taco.
I, for one, haven't slept in 3 weeks, and yes, my children, go get some sleep. And remember, Engineer versus Designer needs your comments like babies need love. Chime in on engineerversusdesigner.com and tell us what you
think. If you hate our guts, tell us so by liking us, +1ing us, following us, or whatever elsing us. It's the best possible way to hurt our feelings.
Really is. Special thanks to Ross Hartman for the sweet musical sounds you have been hearing. Show him some love at rosshartman.com.
We'll see you next week, and remember, without engineers, designers would think they're pretty smart.
And without designers, engineers would think they were cool.
Yeah, I changed that on you there.
Yeah, you did. You did. You caught me off guard there.